Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unleashing Potentials podcast. Today's special guest is Barbara. Barbara, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming on. Can you tell our guests whereabout are you?
I live in the state of Michigan in the United States.
Mhm.
The state of Michigan is kind of shaped like a hand. So if you hold, your left hand out in front of you, I would live in what would be your thumb. So that's my my location is in the thumb of Michigan.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. So, can you start by telling us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my name is Barbara. I have been married for 22 years. I met my husband in college. We have three children together.
Mhm.
They are 21, 18, and 14 years old. And I went through a pretty serious depression a few years ago and took the journey to heal myself to the point where now I am helping other women like me. So that's what I do with my life coaching is help other women to kind of undo the childhood conditioning or traumas
Mhm.
that they might be unconsciously aware of, and so we kind of excavate out those old limiting beliefs and patterns
Mhm.
so that they can kind of move into living a more fully aligned, more authentic life for themselves.
Oh, I love that. I love women that helps women. It's so
Yeah.
empowering. It truly is. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Can you take us
Yeah.
back to you said you struggled with depression. What triggered that and how have you been healing from that?
Yeah. So I used to run a, kind of successful blog about farming and family and food. My husband and I, we own a dairy farm here in Michigan. And so I started a blog and I was just vlogging about, our family and, what we do on the farm and things like that. And apparently I was using a famous company's trademarked name. Very naively, I didn't realize this was a problem that I was using that famous trademark name as part of my blog name. And so there was some legal issues that were involved, and it took a lot of time and a lot of money to resolve that. And throughout that process, I became very depressed. I felt like a real burden on my family, not only emotionally and mentally, but financially. I mean, it was a huge financial issue,
Mhm.
and I just felt like this is all my fault. And if I had never done any of this silly stuff, my family wouldn't be in this position now. And so I just kept going further and further down into that deep, dark hole of depression, until the point where I was alone in the house one day. The kids were at school, my husband was gone working. And I thought, I can just get rid of myself and then they'll be much happier without me.
Mhm.
And when I had that thought, I realized just how bad I had become, how
Mhm.
serious it had become.
Mhm.
And I didn't know how to get myself out of it. Of course, when you are in a state like that, you're trapped in your own brain and you cannot think your way out.
Yeah.
So I realized, in some small way, I just need someone to talk to, someone that doesn't know me,
Mhm.
someone that doesn't know my circumstances. I just need an anonymous person to talk to. So I called a hotline and I talked to this wonderful woman, and I didn't know she was actually in close to my area. So when you call like a national hotline number, apparently it feeds into like a regional or local behavioral health office. And so I was speaking with a woman that was only 20 minutes away from my home. And somehow she had been able to convince me to drive to her location to meet with her in person. She wanted to meet me.
Yeah.
So I did. She said, if you're not in my office in 20 minutes, I'm going to call 911 and send them to your house.
Mhm.
I did. I got in my car. I was able to drive there and I met with her, and she was so kind and so loving and so supportive. I don't remember many of the things she said, but somehow she was able to convince me that I needed mental health. And so that was when I was put into a mental hospital for 5 days. And that was really the start of my mental health journey.
Mm. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing. And
Yeah.
we do have that in common of that happened. It happened to me multiple times that I just did not want to be here anymore. And I felt
Mhm.
that I still don't have family here. Like they won't care. And then, with kids as well, it's so hard. And I just appreciate you for sharing that because it's something that most people do struggle with or have struggled with, and they're scared to get help from my own experience, right? I'm so happy that you met that woman, and I'm sure she shift you into the right direction. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's so important for someone that's in that struggling mindset to get help that they need, because you cannot think yourself out of your own brain. You need someone outside of you to help you.
Yeah, yeah, and I find that there is still stigma around that, if I may put it that way.
Mhm.
And not only do people who think like that, it's not on purpose. It's just pain that's eating them away slowly. And then after that, there really isn't much. And I find that sometimes people do judge before they get to know someone who's struggling.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm,
Yep. Yep. I definitely can agree with that for sure.
mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So what did you do to kind of help you get out of the state that you were in at the time?
Yeah, so first things first is I started on a medication
Mhm,
with the psychologist that was at the hospital. He started me on medication. I started doing therapy right away. We had discovered in those 5 days that I was in the hospital that the feeling of helplessness, that feeling of unworthiness,
mhm,
it all stemmed from my childhood. I was starting to remember things from my childhood, and really, this depression had been triggered because those issues were still under the surface, unresolved. I had just been unconsciously hiding them my entire life, just stuffing it away.
mhm,
And until I had this really critical issue in my life where like my family was put, kind of out in public display, and it cost us a lot of money for lawyers, to undo this damage. Until all of that had come to a head, I probably never would have
mhm,
gone back in time and resolved those unconscious issues. So really starting therapy, starting on medication to get my mindset right was the first step.
mhm,
And then I had started to become, really invested in learning on my own. I love reading. I always have been a big reader. So I started reading a lot of self-help books. I turned to, authors that had been through struggles before and had some real guidance to give. And I took those books and I studied them like I was back in college. I was highlighting and underlining and circling and writing in the margins and like studying these books like my life depended
right.
on it, because it truly did, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So the books, a lot of the authors I was reading, they tended to use a bunch of what they call like tools. So when you have a toolbox of things to help you,
Mhm,
that's really important to be able to just open up your toolbox and grab something. So, I started writing. I started learning about crystals and essential oils, meditation. I got back into yoga again, like just these things, these tools to help me get out of my own brain, because when you're in that like negative loop of thinking, you need something else to snap you out of it. And so honestly, with the help of the medicine and therapy, the books and those spiritual tools, that is what set me on the path to healing, to
Yeah.
be where I am today.
Oh, I love that. I've done all of those. I'm still doing them.
Yeah.
Wow,
Right.
we have so much in common. I still have crystals and essential oil and meditation. That helps quite a bit. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your approach as a life coach when it comes to helping clients?
So first thing, I meet with them, and we kind of discover what exactly they want,
Mhm,
because depending on what they want is the direction we'll go with whatever it is that they want to help themselves or heal themselves with. So it really comes down to them telling me, being very honest and vulnerable. If you can't be honest with me or yourself, there's nothing we can do here,
mhm,
because coaching coaching is different from counseling, in that counseling will tend to look back at your past as a way to understand your present, but coaching takes your present and moves it to where you are looking into the future. So with coaching, I can't make someone make changes in their lives.
mhm.
Truly, they are the ones that have all the answers. They're just locked inside of their own brain. They're truly the ones that are the change agents for their lives. They're the only ones that can make the actions to change. I'm just here as a guide to help them.
Yeah.
So it all just starts with them being honest and vulnerable about what it is they actually want.
Mhm. Yeah, I was thinking that's why most people don't want to do counseling or other types of therapy because they keep taking them back to a place they're trying to avoid. And it's too painful to keep going. At least that was my case. I'm telling my story too. They just keep going back when I wanted to forget it, even though it was killing me inside. I wanted to move forward, but they keep going that way. So it didn't make sense to continue going back and forth. So that's why I turned to the things that I did. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And also
Yeah,
you
I
yoga. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I was going to just say quickly, I had someone describe to me how, like in an analogy, how important therapy is and going back into your childhood. It's like having a wound in or on your body that you
Mhm,
just put a band-aid on, but it never really heals. It's always an open wound under that band-aid
mhm,
if you ignore it, you know. But if you go into therapy and you help to heal yourself, the band-aid comes off and the wound heals, and then it just becomes a scar. So
yeah,
it's no longer a wound anymore, it's just a scar. So that's what I think about, going through therapy or counseling, whatever you want to call it, is that it allows you to heal that wound so that it's only a scar now.
yeah, yeah. And also it's about finding the right person for you. Because in my case, I preferred female therapists. I mean, my psychiatrist is male, but I've known him for years and years, right? It's just people that can actually sit down and listen to what you have to say instead of them shoving down what they've learned or their education or what's in the book. And it reminds me of that lady you just spoke about, right?
Mhm.
She could have done 100 different things, but she humbled herself and realized that I need to help this woman, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really important that you find someone that you connect with, because
Mhm,
if you don't feel like you can be open and honest with your counselor or your coach,
mhm.
what's the point in going? You need someone that you can be
Yeah.
really free with.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
that's important.
Yeah. Also, you write. What do you write, and what does writing does for you?
Yeah, so I write on my blog right now. I'm also writing a book with the help of kind of a book coach.
Mhm,
And so writing is like just such a creative outlet for me. I really feel like that is my true talent, is to be a writer.
mm.
I have always loved books. When I was a little girl, I would buy my own books with, my birthday money or babysitting money, any money I earned, I would save, and I would buy my own books. I've been building my own collection, my own library, I guess, since I was a little girl. I just have always loved books and have always had a dream of having my name on a book.
Mhm, mhm,
So I'm working toward that right now, but currently the place that I'm most active writing is on my blog. And
mm,
right now I am in a season of speaking mostly to mothers on my blog. So a
mm,
lot of what I speak about on my blog is, the chaos of motherhood and how to take care of yourself as a mother.
mhm.
Depending on the season, how to take care of yourself in the busy chaos of holidays and whatnot. And so right now I'm mostly speaking to mothers through my blog.
Oh, okay, that's so cool. I've heard of a blog. I think I've seen what they look like. Is it like, I don't know, it's not affirmation. It's just a quick
It's just
snippet of story or
Yep, it's just what I do is it's on my website, so I just have a link on my website for my blog, and I try to keep it, around, 250 to 500 words. So it's a very short reading,
yeah.
so it gets to the point pretty quickly.
Oh, okay, okay, that's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah. You're also a yoga instructor. That is so cool. There's so many myths about yoga. Can you help break some of them down in your own way?
Of course. Yeah, I'd love to. I would love to. So
Mhm.
I have gotten what I call fan mail in my mailbox at my studio before, where people have been writing anonymous letters to me with Bible quotes and telling me
Mhm.
how awful yoga is and how I'm ruining my community with teaching yoga. But truly, they don't understand what yoga is and what it's for.
Mhm.
Yoga, the word itself means to yoke.
Mhm.
It's a union to
Yeah.
bring together.
Mhm.
So what it is you're bringing together your mind and your body.
Mhm.
So you're focusing on not only the postures with your body, but also your brain, your mind has to focus on your breathing, because yoga poses and breath work together.
Mhm.
So it's about bringing together the mind body connection. And I mean, anyone can do yoga. You don't have to be in fantastic shape.
Yeah.
I tell people, to have a yoga body, you have to, one, have a body, and two, do yoga. There's no requirements otherwise. You
Yeah.
can be older, you can be um, overweight, you can have diseases. It doesn't matter. Truly,
Mhm.
anyone can do yoga. If you have limitations, there are ways to modify the poses so
Mm,
that you can still accomplish the pose in a way that is effective for your body.
yeah.
So those are the two main points I usually try to dissolve right away from people, is that no, yoga is not satanic. We're not teaching
Uh,
devil
yeah.
practices. We're not devil worshiping here. No, not at
Yeah.
all. And also, yoga is not only for fit people. Truly, anyone can do yoga, and
Yeah.
it's very, very good for your body.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, I remember early on my podcast, just a few episodes in, and I still don't know what I'm doing. So I'm gonna be honest. And I was talking about chakras because I'm still going through a spiritual awakening, but I devoured that book and I shared about it, and someone said it's demonic to talk about that because it's that person is of Christian faith. And I'm like, okay, you can have your opinion and do what you think. But yeah, yeah, I've
Yeah.
had similar comments. It's demonic, satanic. Don't do it.
There is an entire group of people that do Christian yoga. There's a book called Christian Yoga. There's a
Yep.
Christian yoga association you can join.
Yeah.
I know a woman in a town nearby me that is a pastor's wife, and she teaches yoga. It
Mhm.
is not satanic. It's not devil worshiping.
Mhm.
And the people that say those things are just uninformed.
Yeah. Yeah. Barbara, would you say that you've found your purpose and calling in life?
I do think I have.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I do. Yeah. I feel like the first go around with my writing and my blog, that the one that ended badly, that was really my setup. That was my my soul nudging me toward this,
Mhm.
but my human brain got it a little wrong. I was blogging and teaching about farming and food and family, right?
Mhm.
which were very important to me, and still are.
Yeah.
However, that wasn't the direction my soul was really meant to take. I was meant to speak more to just women. I
Mhm.
was meant to speak to women about undoing their childhood conditioning, undoing those past traumas and hurts, understanding yourself in a more aligned way. That's really what I meant here to do. And because I learned how to do a blog and how to write and everything that first time, now coming into it was easy. It was like
Mhm.
applying for a job I've already done before. I knew how to do it. I knew how to
Yeah.
set up my website. I knew how to set up my blog. I knew
Yeah.
how to set up, my email list. Like I knew how to do all those things because
Mhm.
I had already done it once. So I feel like that was just my setup for this, which is really what I meant to do.
Yeah. That's awesome, you know how to do those. I don't. I manage the basic Zoom and whatnot, but yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a
Yeah.
lot to learn everything because when you are truly just learning on your own and
Mhm.
doing the research or watching what other people do and asking, their opinion on what they use. There's so many options out there. And to sort through all of it can be really cumbersome.
Yeah, and just too overwhelming. My mind just crashed. I have motivation, but there's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Are you willing to talk about your mental health diagnosis?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. You share and I'll share, if that helps.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go ahead. You can share anything that you'd like to.
Yeah, so you're right. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and that was really difficult for me to take on that diagnosis. I felt in a way that I had failed, that I wasn't being a good example for my children who were young at the time, and it was really humbling for me to have to take medication, for me to have to go to therapy. I felt, kind of like a loser, honestly. It took a long time for me to get out of that thinking.
Mhm.
And now I see the benefit of it, but my brain has changed now because of it.
Yeah.
So when you're in that place, you're not thinking the same as when you're not in that place. So it's important to realize that even if you feel a certain way and think a certain thing, that's not always true. It's just your belief. And here's the thing about beliefs: beliefs are just a long held idea about the way the world works
Yeah.
and how you function in it. Beliefs are not necessarily facts. They're just a belief. They're not a fact. So,
Yeah.
did I believe I was a loser? Yeah, I believed I was a loser.
Yeah.
Uh, in fact, was I a loser? No, I was not a loser. I was doing a really good thing for myself and my family.
Mhm.
Was I a burden? Yeah, I believed I was a total burden. But was I truly? No, that wasn't a fact. I was not a burden on my family. And if I had been successful in taking my life, my family would have been, of course, really traumatized by that.
Yeah.
So I, in fact, was not a burden. They loved me very much and wanted me in their life. That was the fact. So
Mhm.
that's the important thing to remember about beliefs and facts.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Thanks for
yeah,
sharing.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I used to be ashamed of what I have, and literally everything you've shared, I've experienced, right? And it's a very hard place to be, especially with diagnosis. Nobody wants to get any type of diagnosis, right? There's something about it that traumatizes us again, and that opens new wounds, that reminds us we're not worthy, we're not enough, we're not good enough, we're not ever going to be good enough for anybody. It's just
Yeah.
those small voices in the head. Eventually, as we quiet those down, we find purpose and meaning in life. For me, I'm diagnosed with schizophrenia. That was a big one for me. Right? I've had someone broke up with me because I was upfront about it. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, right? People just judge what they don't understand.
Yeah.
And it's very sad because I think when we don't know something, we should be eager to learn of what we don't know. and to
Right.
ask questions, right? Yeah, and also depression, anxiety, PTSD. So that's what they diagnosed me with. Is it who I am? Nope, but that's what they want to diagnose me with. I'm on
Yeah.
meds
Right.
too.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and I know there can be stigma when it comes to medications, so
Right. Yes, there can be. And, you know, like you had just said, someone had judged you for your
mm,
diagnosis, and that's too
yeah,
bad. You know, people judge medication as well, and that's too bad. But
mm,
when you come across someone that is judging, the
mm,
important thing is to look at them kind of with a soft heart and say,
mhm,
okay, they're judging me based on their wounds. They have some unresolved something that they're hiding too, which is why they're projecting their judgment onto me. And
yeah,
so, in that way, it can help you to free yourself of the judgment and instead put the judgment back on them and say, okay, they have some work to do. Whether they do it or not is here nor
yeah,
there,
yeah.
but it has nothing, their judgment has nothing to do with you.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, when I encounter people like that, I unfortunately send them love and I send them back their junk because it's not mine to keep or carry, right? I just send it back to them with love and I pray
Yeah.
for them and I do wish them the best, whether they hate me, like me, love me, I don't really care. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm glad
Exactly.
we talked about that. Yeah. Um,
Hmm.
so you help coaches, therapists, is that correct? Do you work with health professionals or you've received help from those?
I have received help from professional coaches and therapists.
Mhm.
I do not work with any currently.
Okay.
So my role is just as a coach for other women. So
Okay.
I'm not technically a therapist. I haven't
Mm.
gone to college for therapy to be, you know, like a clinical therapist or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So why women, Barbara?
I suppose it's because I want to help my former self. I
Mhm.
want to reach the women that were once me
Yeah.
because I know how critical it was when I got the help I needed from that one lovely woman that was on the other end of the hotline I called.
Yeah.
And I know she was so important. She
Mhm.
was critical. She was a critical turning point for me.
Yeah.
And I would love to be that for someone else
Yeah.
because truly I know how important it is to have
Mhm.
someone that is there with you in that critical moment. Like
Yeah.
this was seriously a critical moment for my life. I could have very easily taken my own life.
Mhm.
And she was there for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't even remember her name or what she looks like anymore. You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
don't. I met her one time,
One
but she
time.
was truly
That's all it
critical.
takes.
Yep, she was
Yes.
critical, and in a way, she helped save my life.
Yes. There. My light went off for a minute. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Wow. And I love that you're helping women from your experiences. Those are the best kind of lessons that we can teach others is to learn from what we've been through. I've been saying this over and over. If someone's never been through something I've been through, they're talking like they're an expert, I'm out. But
Mm,
hey, if someone's been through at least one type of trauma that I have or been through, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to close my mouth, and I'm going to listen and learn.
yeah.
Right. And I love that you do that. So, with the helps that you got between coaches and therapists, tell me what you got from all of them, each individually.
So my therapist started with um, a certain practice. It's called DBT, and I can't remember anymore what DBT stands
I've
for.
heard CBT, I've heard DBT too. Interesting.
Yeah. So that
Therapy
was
sounds
what
familiar.
she did with me is she taught me and I mean in a nutshell what I remember from those early days of therapy and this was many many years ago is that she taught me how to like ground myself in the moment.
Mm,
So it was using your senses to ground yourself. So when you're in that negative loop, your brain is going wild and you're thinking, you know, I'm such a burden, I'm such a loser, or yada yada, I've made mistakes, you know, my family would be better without me, that whole kind of thing. She taught me to ground myself. So sit down, feel your hands on your legs,
Mhm.
smell what's happening. Do you have a candle nearby you can smell? What's the temperature of the room? Do you
Mhm.
have a mug of tea nearby you can take a sip of and taste it? What are you hearing outside? When I'm home, there's tractors and cows mooing that I can hear. So she taught me to ground myself in the moment. And when you are becoming present, your mind cannot think of anything else.
Yeah.
It really cannot. When you are focused on thinking about where you are and what's around you and what's happening, you can't think those other awful negative thoughts.
Yeah.
So that was a way for me to kind of kick myself out of those negative thought loops,
Mhm.
was to practice that grounding
Yeah.
and to just be present in my moment instead of going back in time and thinking about the wrong thing I did and what I almost, killed myself. And instead of going back in time and thinking about the past, it forced me to be in the present, which is really, really important for anyone that's struggling to do, to just ground yourself and be present. Don't be in the past, be
Yeah.
present.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I've heard of,
Yeah.
yeah, CBT, and then the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 breathing technique. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yep, I have heard of that. I've never practiced that, but I have heard of that. Yep.
Yeah, I don't like it. I didn't like it at the time because I saw a psychologist and he was telling me to do that and breathe. I'm like, I would be on the floor if I wasn't breathing. I'm having panic attacks. Why do I need to count? So I still didn't get the concept of it, if that makes sense. But yeah, I love that you mentioned in the moment because very few people can actually live in the moment. Very few. And I think, monks, people who meditate all the time, go in the mountains, and if someone's in a busy city, it can be hard. And also the negative self-talks. What do you think? Am I wrong?
Oh no, it is so easy for people to behave that way. I mean, our whole society is set up to live in the past or to only think about the future. Very few people are in the present moment because our lives just aren't designed for us to be this way.
Yeah, yeah,
And so it's great if anyone can learn these tools and bring themselves into the present more often and then share it with other people. The more we talk about becoming present, the more people will be able to be present. But
yeah,
if people don't know what they don't know, if they don't know how to become present, they can't become present.
yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, because we have our phones, so much tech stuff, and yeah, I don't know. It's just a lot.
Yeah,
Everything for themselves.
there are so many distractions in our world.
Yeah,
Truly, so many things are vying for our attention, and it really takes effort for someone to prioritize themselves, their
mhm,
own self-care, becoming present in the moment and taking care of themselves. Saying no is really important for people,
mhm,
to say no to people or things that they don't want to do, instead of like going into the old people pleasing patterns of the past. Instead, saying, no, that doesn't work for me, you'll have to ask someone else to do that for you, or whatever it may be.
yeah.
It's so, there's so many distractions in our world. For someone to take care of themselves is a lot of effort.
Yeah, yeah, I love that you mentioned saying no, which takes me to boundaries. If we don't have boundaries, then yeah. And then we can in return blame people for what we could have prevented from happening,
Yeah,
right? Some people don't like
truly.
hearing no. They want to hear
Mhm.
yes. And when you say no, you become an enemy, right? You got to build
Yeah,
that backbone and strength to know that, hey, you're going to get rejected if you say no, and to
yeah,
learn that it's okay.
yeah. That is okay. I have had to set boundaries with
Yeah.
people in my life, and of course, there is always some really hurtful backlash.
Yeah.
Immediately when they realize a boundary has been set on them.
Yeah.
But you just hold hold true to yourself and realize that this is important to you. This is
Yeah.
important to your family. This is important to your mental health. And if they cannot be loving and supportive of that, then oh well, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I agree. Yeah. What are some of the spiritual tools that you've used to help you?
Of course, I do a lot of meditating and praying, a lot of just speaking to God in an informal way, throughout the day. It doesn't have to be like the way I was conditioned as a child. You have to go to church, you have to kneel down and,
Mhm.
you know, in front of a crucifix or whatever. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
so formal. You can talk to God anywhere. God is wherever you are, God is in you.
Mhm.
And so just having a connection to God is important. And um, a lot of people speak about the higher self. So if you can imagine like you, but also in heaven with God. So your spirit is like up there, your higher self is up there also. So a
Mhm.
lot of times I will ask my higher self, what should I do about this? Or, should I do that? Or what's the direction for this thing or whatever? And I just allow the answer to come to me. I allow my higher self to kind of drop it into my brain for me because my human brain can't always think itself around a problem or an issue or a
Mhm.
decision. So a lot of times I need that spiritual help from up above. I need the guidance to come from an intelligence that's way smarter than me, So it's like
Yeah,
humbling myself to say I am just a human.
yeah.
Right now, my soul is trapped in this limited human body,
Mhm.
but I know there is an intelligence that's higher than me and willing to
Mhm.
help me through this. So I tap into that whenever and however I can. So I gather up whatever items I feel like will help me connect to God and my higher self. So whether that's diffusing some essential oils so that I can smell, like and get into the mood
Mhm.
maybe for connecting to my higher self. Sometimes it's just holding some crystals in my hands and just feeling what the smoothness, or if it's a rough, raw crystal I'm holding, and to just feel like the energy from those in my hands.
Yeah.
So I use a lot of crystals to connect with God and my higher self.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll light, a sage bundle or Palo Santo again, just some sort of scent to get me into kind of the mood of connecting to my
Mhm.
higher self. Um,
Mhm.
and truly, this can happen anywhere. It doesn't have to be a formal setting. Um, I've prayed in the grocery store before when I think of something that needs addressing. I will just pause for a moment and take a deep breath and say in my head, God, I really need help with this XYZ thing.
Yeah.
Please send me the answer. And I'm just on the lookout always for when the answer is going to come to me.
Mhm.
Because if you're not paying attention, you might miss it, is what I've found.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I love that you brought that up because I wasn't sure where to go or how far to go when it comes to spirituality, the I believe in all of that, right? And I've
Mhm.
had mediums on the podcast. We sure have fun. We talk about it
Oh.
all, and I love it all. Yeah. Would you say you went through a spiritual awakening of some form?
Oh, I definitely did. Definitely. I did not have any oils, crystals,
Yeah, me too.
sage,
Yeah,
candles, nothing. I had nothing like that in my house
yeah,
before.
yeah.
And truly, I believe I heard either God's voice or my higher self voice the
Mm,
day that I called the hotline when I was crying in my closet
mhm,
with my handgun just a few feet above my head in a gun safe.
mhm.
I was ready to take my life, and I heard a voice say, the children will be the ones that find you first.
Ooh,
I know I heard that voice, and that's what hit me. I knew I could not do that to my children. I know you cannot unsee your mother dead in her closet by her own hand. You cannot unsee that. And for my children to have to go through something like that was not a choice I wanted to make.
mhm.
So that's when I called the hotline. So truly, I believe I was in that critical moment and I heard a voice. I'm not sure if it was God or my own higher self or
Mm.
a deceased relative or Elvis, I'm not sure. Someone spoke to me,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
and said the children will be the ones to find you first.
Mhm,
And so ever since then, I've believed in higher power. I've believed in spiritual tools. I've believed that humans are very limited, but God is not.
mhm,
And I believe my soul is on a journey.
mhm,
And it was important for me to go through that horrible rock bottom moment because it forced me into learning my true purpose and potential
mm,
here on earth. And now here I am doing what I am meant to do. I would not have done this if
yeah,
I had not gone through that first. So
yeah,
truly going through that horrible time, as much as I'd say I wish that had never happened to me,
mm,
I can't say that because I wouldn't be where I am today if that had not happened first.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I believe you. I do, because I'm still going through a spiritual awakening, and it was awful. Like, my third eye was opening, and I was sensitive to light, noise, people's
Mm,
energy, all of it, and then I started to dream and all of it. Yeah, I do. Yeah, isn't it
yeah.
interesting and not interesting that they come, you know, at the last minute, even though they've been there the whole time? I don't know if you believe in guides as well, or angels and all of that. I've always asked, where were you guys? Hmm, you know, where was God when I was going through everything I've been through? Where? And yeah, I did. So they call it shaman or shaman. I call it shaman.
Mhm.
I saw one, and he said, God is not the source of my suffering. I'm like, well, who is? Tell me who. Right? And he said he had a vision of me just on my knees as a little girl, just crying, and there were butterflies around me, which describes probably what my inner child is going through. How
Mhm.
about you? What would you say to your inner child?
My inner child, yeah, I've met with her. I've
Oh.
met with her. I've done a lot of inner child work. I do believe in the power of angels and spirit guides. I do believe they
Mhm,
exist. And I believe that, God and all of my guides and angels were always around me. I just wasn't in a place of receiving their guidance up until that point. And so now knowing that, I can see how parts of my past have been directed by angels and guides and my higher self and God. I can see things that have happened in my past that led me, very nudging, little nudge they'd give me in a certain
yeah,
direction.
yeah.
And so, yeah, my inner child, she is a very scared little girl, or was a very scared little girl.
Mhm,
Um, she was afraid to say anything
mhm,
because of the tempers and the manipulation in the home. So it was easier for her to just be quiet and hidden.
mhm,
And so that's truly why I went through that horrendous depression after all of that blog blew up, is because it was a very public
yeah, yeah,
issue that happened,
yeah,
and I was in a way like forced to shut my voice off. I couldn't write anymore. I couldn't talk about it. I had to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, and so I couldn't speak about anything that happened, and it felt like I was that little kid again, scared in the home, hiding, in the bathroom, scared to go out into the rest of the house. Like that's what it felt like again.
mhm,
So having gone through some inner child healing now and going back in time and seeing, in my mind's eye myself as a little girl and how scared I was and how I was just trying to survive. I was just surviving however I knew how to. And how does a little girl know how to survive? You don't. You just, do whatever you think you can.
mhm, mhm,
So it's definitely painful going through
mhm,
an inner child healing like that. but truly it's necessary.
Hmm.
If you've been through something really traumatic, you need to heal that little child wound, or else it's forever going to just be a wound covered up with a band-aid. You
Yeah.
need to heal it so it can just become a scar.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I'm laughing on the inside about my inner child. I'm very sure she's part Chucky, from that horror movie. She is part Chucky and from Saw too. So I don't mess with her. So whoever chooses to, good luck. Like that's how I felt in seeing her. Like it's been 2 years since my spiritual awakening, and once I play an inner child meditation for 15 minutes, and I couldn't continue. Every time I go, I get scared. So I know there's lots of healing that needs to be done. So
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely some inner work there that needs to be done yet.
that's honestly how I see her, Chucky. Yeah, yeah. Is there anything else we didn't cover that you'd like to touch on?
I just really want the listeners to know how important it is to, number one, get help if you feel like you are unraveling.
Mhm,
You don't have to do it alone. There are people to help you, and you are important. You are worthy. You are meant to be here. You have a purpose. And so if you can't think yourself out of whatever situation you're in, please seek help.
mhm,
Seek the help from anyone that is willing to help.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and to get the help for you, because sometimes families will convince people, oh, you okay? Yeah, they'll convince people to get help for their own benefits, but to get it for you, to be selfish.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to, is being
Yeah.
selfish is not a bad thing. We've been taught in society that being selfish is bad, and it's really not. It's you taking care of yourself in whatever way that looks for you. It's
Mhm.
necessary.
Yeah, yeah. Even my kids,
Mhm.
they know not to mess with my sleep schedule. So people who know me, I have a routine and schedule. I go to bed at a certain time. God bless their soul if they do mess with it. But that's when I go to bed, and that's it. It's just building routines and boundaries as well.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have two questions for you before we wrap up. The
Sure.
first one is, what is the meaning of life for you?
Whew, that's a big one. The meaning of life for me is for my soul to continue to evolve
Mhm,
toward its highest consciousness with God.
mhm, mhm,
I don't know if you or any of your listeners believe in past lives, but I do believe that I've lived several lives already, and my soul has learned very critical things in each lifetime.
mhm, mhm,
And now in this lifetime, I am learning about worthiness,
mhm,
you know? And so I think every lifetime I learn a new lesson in is taking me closer to ultimate alignment with God, which is where I want to be forever and ever, is in heaven with God. But I
mhm.
don't think my soul can get there until it's become evolved enough to resonate on that highest frequency with God.
Mm,
So I think the soul has lessons to learn, and it could take several lifetimes for a soul to learn its lessons. So I
mm.
guess that is what I would say is the purpose of life for me, is to allow my soul to heal and learn what it needs to get closer to that highest alignment with God.
Yeah. Yeah, I do believe in past lives. Yeah, if you listen to some previous episodes with a few of the mediums, yeah, I do past life regressions and I get quite a bit of
Mm-hmm.
visions, and my human mind still can't understand why I keep coming back, especially to Earth. So, yeah.
Right. Right.
I'm like, out of all the planets, this one. This
Yeah.
one that when we come down, you might see a sprinkle of love from where we came from. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Earth is one big classroom, and the people in our lives are our classmates, and the trials and tribulations that we go through are our lessons.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Last question for you. Where can my listeners find you and support your work?
Great, yeah. So my website is just my name, barbarasiemen.com.
Mhm,
And that really is the greatest way to connect with me because it links to my socials. I'm also I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Also, you can just search my name, Barbara Siemen,
mhm,
on both of those. And my podcast is called Unsubscribed. So, what I do is I help women unsubscribe from their past childhood traumas and conditioning so that they can live a life of alignment. They can subscribe to the beliefs and patterns and habits and behaviors that they want.
mhm.
So yeah, my podcast is called Unsubscribed, and you can search that and find it anywhere podcasts are
Mhm.
played.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Is that word? That's the word I needed to hear today.
Yes.
You unsubscribe. Wow. How
Yeah.
did you come
Yeah.
up with that name, if I may ask, before we wrap up?
Sure, it's a great story actually. So
Mm,
when I was going through, my spiritual healing and everything,
mhm,
I literally my job was just to take care of myself. My husband took a lot of the priorities away. So basically, I just had to take care of myself and maybe make dinner and wash laundry. Okay, so everything else was taken care of. My
yeah.
job was just to take care of me. So I
Mhm,
was sitting in my living room one day. I had my dogs on my lap and I
mhm.
had my laptop, and I was just going through and deleting all of these emails. And I was like, oh my God, there's like 100 emails. Just today I have to delete. This is so annoying.
Mhm.
And so I got up then after a little while and I, took a break, came back, deleting more. And I thought to myself, suddenly it came to me, these emails are going to keep coming back. These companies are going to
Yeah.
email me all of their specials and sales and everything again tomorrow. So
Mhm,
what I need to do is unsubscribe
mhm,
from these emails.
mhm, mhm.
And as I was unsubscribing from all of these companies I didn't wish to get emails from anymore, it was like a literal light bulb went off in my head. It was like I had that aha moment and I thought, I can totally unsubscribe from anything I want,
Yeah.
not just emails. I can unsubscribe from anything.
Mhm.
And that's really where the whole idea was born, is that day
Mhm.
unsubscribing from emails. And I
Yeah.
realized you can unsubscribe from anything in life
Oh,
if you don't
excuse
want
me.
it.
Oh,
Bless you.
sorry. I'll edit that out.
So
Well,
that is where the whole idea of unsubscribed came from, is just unsubscribing from anything you want in life.
I love that. I love that so much. I've had to do that. Like every year I unsubscribe and delete, remove. That's so cool. And I love
Yeah.
that. Well, Barbara, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for pouring your heart out and sharing your experience and journey with not only me, but my audience.
Yes, you are so welcome. And I want to thank you for having me on and giving me the opportunity to share my
Mhm.
story. I appreciate it so much.
You're welcome.